the 6 stages of consciousness. Only one stage leads to freedom. 97% of people live their entire lives without realizing it. They are being controlled. They believe they have free will, that every decision they make is a personal choice. But the truth is shocking. Most of our behaviors, emotions, and thoughts stem from an invisible operating system, survival consciousness, which was programmed in our primitive ancestors to cope with fear, danger, and scarcity. The problem is, consciousness is not just a single layer. It's a wide spectrum, ranging from the lowest instinctual reflexes to the highest levels of spiritual awakening. Where the ego no longer exists, there is no more distinction, only absolute unity. But no one teaches us this. No school shows us how to step out of the unconscious realm and move to higher levels of awareness, where you can live with unconditional love, inner peace, and true freedom. This video will unveil the 6 levels of consciousness, from survival instincts to the non-dual state of oneness. And importantly, only one of those levels can free you from all limitations, all suffering, and bring you to true freedom. In 2000, scientist Ken Wilber, with his 6 levels of consciousness model, opened up a powerful path for cognitive evolution. From the instinctual, emotional, and thinking layers to the spiritual, each step is a journey of overcoming personal limitations. However, the most important level isn't thought or emotion, but the witness consciousness, the consciousness of observing. Wilber made it clear that only when a person reaches the non-judgmental witness consciousness do they truly break free from the ego loop, overcome suffering, and touch inner freedom. Thought, emotions, and behaviors are just transitional steps. They are not the true liberation. This video will take you to the awakened witness consciousness, where you are not just the observer, but also the free one. The witness level is the breakthrough, transcending the illusion of the ego to achieve absolute freedom. Get ready for a profound transformation and real awakening. Before we dive into the main content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our latest videos. And leave a comment to share your thoughts on today's topic. 1. Stage 1. Survival consciousness. This is the most primal level of consciousness, where immediate survival instincts dominate every action. People at this level are controlled by fear, hunger, pain, and unchecked desires, with the primitive brain constantly looking for ways to protect life. In modern life, this stage often manifests in intense reactions, like road rage when cut off, or chasing after wealth and status, as if they were a life or death necessity, as if nothing is more important than mere existence. Survival consciousness was incredibly useful in ancient times, helping humans survive in dangerous situations. But in today's society, it has become a mental prison, hindering personal growth and true happiness. This is the first stage in the awakening journey, and to progress further, we must recognize and transcend its control. Stage 2. Emotional consciousness. This stage is where emotions drive every action. Anger, jealousy, anxiety, and the desire for recognition. These emotions are often influenced by past memories and emotional trauma, lingering from the past and strongly affecting the present. The root of this stage is the need to belong to a group. Humans fear being excluded. This creates feelings of insecurity, making us anxious about being judged or dependent on social media for validation. The trap of this stage is the repetitive nature of emotions, leading us to believe, I am my emotions. This unwittingly strengthens the ego, trapping us in a vicious cycle. To escape this trap, the first step is to recognize unconscious emotional patterns. By becoming aware of our emotions, we begin to detach and move toward the path of true freedom. 3. Stage 3. Rational intellectual consciousness. This stage is where reasoning, analysis, and logic dominate all actions. It's the time when science, language, and abstract thinking flourish, and the ego is reinforced by the belief, I think, therefore I am. At this level, humans have created great achievements like medicine, technology, and the social systems we live in. Things that once seemed impossible have become reality thanks to reason. However, the trap of this stage is the belief that reason is the pinnacle of evolution. This leads us into the confusion of overthinking, where the ego sharpens, distancing us from ourselves and the world around us. The consequence is a disconnection from emotions, and all relationships become conditional, based on opinions rather than true presence. To transcend this stage, we must learn to reconnect with ourselves and those around us in a whole, not just through intellect. 4. Stage 4. Heart-centered consciousness. When we reach this stage, our perspective shifts and we open our hearts, seeing others as reflections of ourselves. This is the moment when empathy and love overflow, where judgment fades away, and we are left with deep connection to those around us. The powerful effect of this stage is that the suffering of others is no longer something distant, but a part of our own emotions and experiences. This allows us to develop true awareness, not by collecting more knowledge, but by dissolving inner barriers. This is the real beginning of awakening, where we learn to live from the heart, touching deep peace and freedom within. This stage opens the path to freedom not from the outer world, but from within ourselves. 5. Stage 5. Cosmic consciousness. At this stage, the I no longer exists as separate, and everything becomes one. The feeling of merging with the universe, where every living being has its own consciousness, and there is no longer any search for anything but pure existence. At this level, the ego temporarily disappears, and you sense yourself as an inseparable part of the entire universe. Everything becomes undivided. No personal I remains. Only the beautiful connection with all that is. Science also shows that when we reach this level, the brain becomes quieter. All distinctions temporarily vanish, allowing you to feel complete harmony with the surrounding universe. This is the glorious state of awakening, where you no longer need to seek anything, only the full presence in each moment. TAR 6, Stage 6, Non-Dual Consciousness. The defining characteristic of this stage is the absence of division between subject and object. Only pure experience remains. Here, language no longer has the ability to express it, as it belongs to a world without separation, where everything merges as one. The I that was once distinct suddenly dissolves, and there is no memory, desire, or fear to control us. It's important to understand, this is not a distant goal, but an eternal state that has always existed within us, obscured only by the ego and the limits of our perception. When the ego is gone, we see ourselves as part of the infinite universe, with no boundaries, no opposites. This is true freedom. No more fear or worry, only pure existence in the moment. When we transcend the ego, we experience the wholeness of life, where there is no longer any separation between ourselves and the universe. 7. The ultimate subtle trap. Fake spirituality. Many people have touched the higher levels of awakening, feeling a deep connection with the universe and their true selves. However, they get stuck in the memory of these experiences. They believe they've escaped, achieved enlightenment, and are no longer affected by the worldly suffering. But this is where a subtle trap emerges. Fake spirituality. This is when people use spiritual language as a shield to hide unhealed pain. They hide behind lofty words, but inside, they haven't yet faced their deep wounds. The true challenge is not staying in the higher state, but rather bringing that awakening back into everyday life, even when faced with conflict, loss, and fear. When we can integrate awakening into every moment, from the struggles to the simplest things, that is true enlightenment. 8. The importance of recognizing the issue. Many people, after experiencing a profound moment of awakening, feeling as though they've transcended the ego and merged with the universe, believe they've escaped, achieved enlightenment, and are no longer affected by earthly suffering. However, a subtle trap appears right there. High awareness does not mean you're always in it. We often confuse the idea of spirituality with truly living it. When we use spiritual language to hide our pain, we fall into the trap of spiritual bypassing. So why is it important to recognize this? Because if we don't see it clearly, we will think we've escaped, but in reality, we're just running away. Wear the mask of awakening while still being filled with unhealed wounds inside. Use light to deny the darkness instead of shining light on it. Only when we recognize that consciousness is a spiraling journey, not a straight path upwards, can we humbly return to the lower stages of ourselves, not to sink into them, but to embrace them with presence, compassion, and awareness. 9. Conclusion. Awakening is not a straight climb, but a spiral movement. Consciousness is a cycle. It expands and contracts, becomes clear, and then fades away. This is not a failure. It's part of the natural design of growth. Every step, even if it feels like a step back, carries a valuable lesson. Measuring progress is not about reaching the highest stage, but rather about how you face each stage of yourself, with presence, without resistance, without judgment. When you accept each step, whether it's upward or downward, you are truly growing. The final message: don't aim for perfection, but for authenticity. Become a more real, more genuine person, and live in the depth of each moment. Awakening is not a destination, but a journey, one where you discover and embrace yourself with every step.